So Elizabeth Banks, you know her as the awful director of the Charlie's Angels reboot from 2019, who blamed her failure on literally everyone in the entire world except for herself. She has got a new movie coming out that we are all very excited about. It is called Cocaine Bear. Who wouldn't be excited about a movie called Cocaine Bear? The problem is she doesn't know when to shut up when she's doing her press tours. It seems to be an ongoing problem with her. So it says, Elizabeth Banks says female action directors are discriminated against, but Ray Liotta gave her the confidence to make Cocaine Bear. First of all, anytime they say something that involves this actor did this that gave me the confidence to do that, it's PR bullshit. But
the confidence was the cocaine.
Yeah, I would hope so. Thoughts? Mary, first thoughts?
Well, I want to actually go over what she said.
Let's read the quote first.
She said,
then.
I'm a female director. I wanted to make a big movie that has a lot of action and CGI, and it's a very muscular, masculine kind of project. And I've been told by people in Hollywood, I don't know if you can direct those things because I don't know if male actors will follow you. And I say to that, when Henry Hill follows you, you can make anything you want. So that was the gift that Ray Liotta gave to me. He gave me the confidence to know that I can direct anybody doing anything. So she didn't outwardly say that there is discrimination.
She's saying that they don't think that people will follow her. My question is, what if they just meant they won't follow her?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Women?
Like, it's about you, Elizabeth Banks, and not about the fact that you're female.
The other thing that hit me when I said this was like, look, I'm a lover of television, and there's so much good action television directed by women. The first thing that came to my mind, like, what if you're one of these like veteran female directors that never had to use your gender as like a stepping stool to get ahead in the industry, and you worked very hard to build your name and your reputation on your own? Patty Jenkins comes to mind for Wonder Woman, but also Denny Gordon and Tawny McKierney. There's a bunch of these actors. The ones that I listed, like I made a list off the top of my head right there, and only picked ones that do action movies or television, right? So not just people that are good directors, but people that are known to do action roles, because that's what she's talking about here. Denny Gordon did Burn Notice and Jack Ryan. Tawny McKierney did Game of Thrones, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which is a Terminator property, Blind Spot, and more. Like, all of these directors were women that weren't just doing, Euphoria or things that are dialogue heavy. They're things with a lot of action scenes in it. Deborah Chow is one of the most celebrated directors of any of the new garbage Star Wars. Like, she's one of the only ones that people seem to like the direction from. Michelle MacLaren did some of the most episodes of Game of Thrones. Imagine being some of these women, right, that have been doing this for years, and then somebody says something like this. I feel like it holds, like, first of all, it's a disservice to them, but now you're painting a target on their back because they're going to be painted with the same brush you are.
No, they probably agree with her.
I don't know if they do. Not if they've been working for 20 years. I don't know if they want to be lumped in that.
Do you realize that everyone in Hollywood marches in lockstep and agrees on literally everything?
But I also don't know if I agree
their
that
extreme feminist biases span across all of them.
It's not quite that bad, but it is really, really heavily biased.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter.
They're completely detached from reality. Even if you can read out their own rap sheet of accomplishments to them,
they're also directors and
they
not
would deny
actors,
that they weren't held back for being women.
The fact that I looked through most of these women's, and I found no quotes about that in their IMDb's that said that. I'm just saying, like, we're both like,
logical you can induce basically that they all agree on everything, and if you haven't objected to the approved opinion,
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that's fair to them.
Hold that opinion.
I don't know if it's fair to them. Like, what if you are like,
or you're too cowardly to speak out against it? So.
But it's not cowardly if you don't feel like that's your reality. If you've worked hard and you've gotten ahead.
No, I mean, it's cowardly not to speak out against it. Yeah. When someone like Elizabeth Banks is the only one saying anything.
These other other directors, they're not going to be getting interviews. Like, they're veteran directors who are directing some big budget television, but television in some movies. But they're not getting the press pass, the press pieces that are being done for somebody like Elizabeth Banks, who's directing a bigger budget, but is also an actor director, so she gets more spotlight because she's both.
Okay, that makes sense.
So she has more of a platform.
As smaller directors is just what they make and not their interviews.
So I wonder if, like, even that, like, even maybe there's some resentment there that they aren't going to be asked all of these questions, and like maybe they have
Elizabeth
something
Banks
to the
is
contrary.
asked the questions because she is guaranteed to have the approved answers.
Yeah, and my problem with this is like she gets no leeway given past comments about how the reason people didn't go see Charlie's Angels is because men don't want to support female action movie or female superheroes, and then blaming the studio for marketing. If your track record isn't speaking to me, like if this was somebody's first time comments, maybe you can give it a pass.
Wasn't she in Zack and Miri Make a Porno?
Yes, and I forget what the other one was. She was in like Walk of Shame and Pitch Perfect. I don't know if you're a Pitch Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh
too.
yeah, that's where I recognize her from.
Like
Yeah.
she's.
Did you know that she made this movie called Jane?
I didn't see it.
It's like about these women who obtained abortions for women before abortion was legal.
Seems right up her alley.
Said that like basically the Harriet Tubmans of the abortion industry before abortion was widely legal in this country.
What year was it?
It was like, you know, the abortion underground railroad equivalent, like that, because they think that they're heroes. And like they think that being pregnant is a form of slavery,
So brave.
obviously.
So brave.
And then it came out, of course, at such a convenient time when Roe versus Wade got overturned, and they had the perfect opportunity to whinge about it. And they said, you know, I feel like this film coming out now is like a greater responsibility on it. However, we made the movie knowing that there are already abortion healthcare deserts all across America in places like Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. Millions of women have to already travel so far for abortion healthcare that it really felt like the post-overturning Roe world already existed for millions of women in the country.
Millions
And
of
this is
women
in
have to travel.
an interview about this movie called Jane. I haven't seen it. I would rather never see it.
There's so much stuff that I would want to.
But this
ask
woman is given a
follow-up.
platform.
I would
This
want-
woman is the big female action director. She's the one getting the interviews in the press because they know that she will give the correct answers.
The problem here is like if ever there was a time
Problem here
to
is
res-
Elizabeth Banks.
is if ever there was a time to restrain yourself, it's when you're releasing a fun B movie that literally is so far from the world of identity politics. You should be keeping it like at least we may disagree with what she says, but it makes sense to have that interview when you're talking about a movie about the Underground Murder Railroad. Fine, sure, whatever.
Well, it's telling
fun.
that now we're seeing the headlines that say Elizabeth Banks' new movie Cocaine Bear is going to ruin her career.
like
When in reality, making a stupid, preachy movie like Call Jane should have ruined her career.
I see
But
what you're
instead, she's failing upwards
Yeah.
in this fashion that she gets not only a second chance, but a third and a fourth and a fifth and infinity chances
Yeah.
to prove herself.
History plant.
Exactly, yeah.
Meritocracy is just dead. And in a lot.
I
of
mean,
the arts,
meritocracy in an industry like Hollywood is,
Right, it's
is
always been
almost
dead.
non-existent anyways.
Right.
Outside of provable numbers like box office figures,
right,
like
exactly.
that's the problem with award shows, right? It's like it's all subjective anyways.
it's
Award
all
show,
from,
like never go
yeah.
by award shows. Go by record or go by movie sales, ticket
Right,
sales,
exactly.
Christopher
downloads,
Nolan.
views, that kind of stuff is what
Right.
because everything else is the industry patting itself on the back.
Yeah,
Like the Grammys,
always.
the Grammys are always
Yeah.
the industry deciding,
example of that.
Well-
giving kudos to people in the industry that the industry approves of.
Why are people who win the awards or get nominated for the awards seen as the only real artists? You know, like there are actors and actresses that are just seen as, you know, the real performers and the real like the people who take acting as an art rather than a job. And then there are directors who are seen as auteurs and not just directors who make products.
Well,
you
there's
know,
also plenty
like
of auteur
Carey
directors that
Mulligan
never
is one
get-
of those actresses where she's in what was that movie Brad Pitt produced about Harvey Weinstein?
She said,
She said she was in that playing some New York Times journalist that exposed like all of the Weinstein.
yeah, but nobody went and saw those
Scandal.
movies. Like nobody went and saw those movies.
No one saw that exactly, but she still has a career where she does this over and over. Firstly, like I was just thinking of A Promising Young Woman, where Carey Mulligan again, like she plays this woman who was in medical school and she dropped out because her friend got gang R-worded while she was drunk. And then she goes on a murderous rampage.
That's called democratic sex.
She goes to bars in this small American town, pretends to be blackout drunk, gets into bed with men who are planning to R-word her, and then like kills them. Mm-hmm. And there was this huge controversy before it came out, by the way, where people were saying that Carey Mulligan isn't hot enough to play that role. The same way, okay, maybe she isn't hot enough to play that role, but she was beautiful enough to, I think, play Daisy Buchanan in Great Gatsby. But it's funny that debate happened twice with her. It would cause me a huge blow to my ego if people were debating whether I was attractive enough to play all of the characters I play. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, there are movies like this and directors like this and actors and actresses like this that operate outside of mainstream appeal, and they get to fail upwards regardless of whether what they make resonates with people, because they espouse the views that Hollywood approves of.
They're also making the movies that aren't expected to move the needle anyways. They don't give them the movies that they expect to make a ton of money. They give those to James Cameron, Christopher Nolan, and a handful of other directors.
Well, they think it's going to shift the Overton window to put out a movie like She Said or Women Talking.
Then you don't look at that as like then their monetary system for success isn't based on money. We're judging them by the wrong monetary system. Theirs is on social capital. So the social capital that they build the studio is basically a byline that can't be quantified, but they have an unlimited budget for. The other thing that's funny about this, if we go back to the actual directing situation here, is like, what do you think is like worse? Do you think it's like, so the idea, like we talked about Olivia Wilde and directing those movies, like what's worse, the male ego of like a male actor that doesn't want to take direction from a female director, or is that outweighed by a male actor's narcissistic need to prove himself to be an ally, which are both strong things in Hollywood?
Wait, what was the question?
So
exactly?
so what wins out in the end? The male ego to not be led by a female director because he feels like she can't do her job. That seems to be what she's saying.
That
here.
male actor does not exist.
That's what I'm saying. But she's saying they won't follow.
It's a made up fantasy straw man.
So she's lying
that she doesn't have.
So she's lying.
Well, maybe she's not lying that someone said that to her, but they probably said it in a way that's like, you know how we feminists are aware that female directors are discriminated against. Well, they didn't say it as in like, you're a woman, therefore no one should listen to your direction.
Then the studio's lying to them, to her, because they're trying to like stave her off the project, and they're like, I don't know if you want to do this one, make this one over here. Don't make this one, make this one, because you're right.
This one replied to it, said her mouth is her greatest enemy. I'm not sure why she always comments on men disliking her. Let your movie speak for itself. People will turn up regardless if a man or a woman directed it. Guarantee if it bombs, she'll use the same excuse as Charlie's Angels.
There is nothing in that movie trailer that says directed by a female, and that's perfect. It shouldn't need something like that. It should live on its own. It should live and die on its own merit, right? Yeah. And now people are going to read stuff like this, and they're going to be turned off by those headlines, which just proves that the journalists aren't any better friend to the actors than they are to us, right? They're not helping her out any by writing this article. They don't help her out at all. This doesn't give her good publicity. It turns people off. So it's like, who are they? Like, when they go to these press tours, it must be like having a gun to your head the whole time, every time they ask you a question, because you know how it's going to be clipped.
Some of these directors and celebrities, they seem eager to preach in interviews. Like they're taking every opportunity.
For the most part, these people probably have at least an idea of what the questions are going to be, and they know what the answers are going to be to the questions. Most press tours are really just FaceTime with the press.
It's on rails.
Yeah, it's completely formatted and stuff. So because if you don't, then you end up saying something that is, outside of acceptable. Even if it's not outside of acceptable now, you might say something that in 6 months or a year is outside of acceptable. They put a lot of effort into making sure that your PR companies put a lot of effort into making sure that you're doing what is best for your brand. So if you're out there trying to make noise, trying to make issues, they can direct you in that way. But if you're trying to keep things specifically within a narrow format, they really keep you on the straight and narrow.
She should be talking about nothing but things that are fun or interesting on something like this. There should be no mention of gender politics.
There is no more fun.
Yeah, it's funny that she even said or suggested the idea that people think women can't direct men, because in the professional sense, that's not true. Hollywood men are wimpy male feminists.
They're happy to take
they'll
direction.
be happy to take direction.
Yep.
But secondly, like, just in general, women have been telling men what to do for all of human history. And
there have been queens for almost as long as there have been kings. And
Yeah.
queens start wars just like kings start wars.
there's
so.
been no dispute to female power until, female empowerment astroturfing took the stage. Like, that's when things really went haywire. Is, the more similar to men women become, the more disposable they are, and that's when you start feeling like you're getting kicked to the curb and not listened to.
I just feel bad for all of these female directors that have been working for 20 or 30 years that never, like, whether they did or not, I'm not seeing articles written about them talking about how they were held back. And if that were me, and I worked very hard to get where I am in an industry that is predominantly male, especially on the director's side, right? Your men are going to outnumber the females. Now, that's what's funny too. Is like you go through any of these shows and you can go on IMDb and you can look up a show and list how many directors have worked on the show, meaning like this one, and then it goes from like most episodes directed to the least, right? And there's always a couple of females on each one, and certain people would attribute that to sexism, but we know that that's just professional like choice, right? Less women go into directing than men. Hollywood would at no point love to say we have female directors working on these things now, but these women existed at a time when that wasn't the narrative.
I wonder how many people.
yeah.
I wonder how many people like go into acting and decide they actually want to move on to directing.
A lot of them.
And how many like decide they just want to stay in acting.
The number one director for one of these shows that I was looking at earlier, I think it was for Breaking Bad and for Game of Thrones, he was actually a child actor who he worked on the show Everwood. He was Ephraim on Everwood, and he still acted all the way up until 2017. But for them,
It's when you get tired of being told what to do.
It's a natural transition, or like he gets an opportunity. A lot of actors, like if a show goes for long enough, most of the lead cast end up directing an episode anyways. So like if you look through any of your favorite shows, if you go down the list and look for like the least amount of episodes directed, you'll usually see like an actor on the show has directed some of those episodes because they get the opportunity as the show goes on longer. It's a well-oiled machine. They get to try their hand at acting, and some of them they get bitten by the bug. They love to do it, and that's fine. But it's just I feel bad for the ones that didn't feel like they needed the heads up, and whether they agree with them or not. If it were me, it would be a point of personal pride that I succeeded in an industry dominated by if I was a male beauty influencer, I would be.
You don't
I would
realize that
Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah.
you don't realize that it actually is insincere when they're calling for equity. These women, like all of these feminists, because Elizabeth Banks, knowing that most directors and like the biggest directors are men, likes to be like the pick-me. She's not like other girls, and she's able to get along with the boys, and she can do anything that the men can do. So if it were an equitable like 50-50 share, like if there were a quota of female directors, she wouldn't be special anymore.
Nope.
So she doesn't actually want that to happen.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.